young lions like Joe Knott at Buffalo and Kevin Sawinski last week in Anderson. Yesterday, Sawinski continued his hot streak, ripping off a track record to earn the pole on a new Milwaukee surface. From the short bull ring in Anderson last week to the super smooth, super fast Milwaukee Mile. It's the oldest active racetrack in all of America. It is the Milwaukee Mile, and today it plays host to the Badgerland 150 for the American Speed Association's AC-Delco Challenge Series. Weather-wise, it's absolutely perfect here for racing today. 80 degrees with a light wind, pretty warm inside the cars, but beautiful for the fans. Hi everybody, I'm Ralph Sheen. We're high atop the grandstands, and down below us in a little while, the AC-Delco Challenge Series cars are going to go racing for 150 laps around this 1 mile oval. And it's going to be a pretty interesting race too, because the point standings have really gotten crazy. Take a look as we've got through qualifying. Scott Hansen picked up a couple of points. He now sits just 1 point behind Gary St. Amant. Bob Seneker, the Bluebird, the sneaker, he's been sneaking right up into this points chase, looking for another ASA championship. He has moved himself all the way up into third. Taking a look at the back half of the top 10 in points, there's been a little moving around in here. The big news has been Kevin Sawinski. He finds himself 7th in points. The rookie having a tremendous season. Mike Eddy finally moving out of 10th. He now sits 9th in the points after last week's racing at Anderson. Well, there he is, the Bluebird, Bob Seneker, car number 84. He has had just some phenomenal luck over these 8 weeks of racing here with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. And in Milwaukee, well, the sneaker is just flat dominant. He's been here 29 times, and I think the most interesting stat is the one at the bottom. 21 times he has finished inside the top 10, and when you're looking to chase after a championship, no better way to do it than to finish in the thick of the points. So, the one guy who has got the most to lose here today, of course, is Gary St. Amant. He stands by with the boy who'll be joining me in the booth later, Jim Trado.
Coming into this event, ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series point leader Gary St. Amant had the point lead coming in. He still holds the lead, but he qualified well back in 27th position. Gary St. Amant, the question I have to ask you is, you're starting 21st based on a point provisional. How does that concern you today starting mid-pack?
Well, you know, the Milwaukee Mile here, it's a big racetrack, awful wide, and, you know, it would have been a concern if the racetrack was coming apart like it did here in the past, and, you know, they've done an excellent job on the surface as far as the repaving goes, and I don't think it's going to be a problem. You know, the key is to be around here at lap 150, and hopefully the wins Port City, Fort Thunderbird will be up front.
Now, Gary, starting farther back here, you mentioned it's not a concern yet, but looking at the overall picture, you got a couple of guys right behind you in points, starting well up ahead of you. Is that a concern early on?
It is tough. You know, the next few races we're up here in Wisconsin land, and with Mr. Hansen there right behind us, you know, it's put a little bit of pressure on us, and we came here. This is the first race for the new 96 Ford Thunderbird nose, and it was a little bit different for us. I think there's quite a bit more downforce on the nose, and it took us all of yesterday to get it figured out, and hopefully we got it figured out for today.
Well, in 16 previous ASA starts, Gary St. Amant finishes no better than 4th. 2 top 10 finishes. We'll try to improve on that today and keep the point lead.
All right, Jim, thanks a lot. Now, there is one driver who has really been on a hot streak lately, and that has been Kevin Sawinski. He absolutely has been dominating the Pat Shaw Rookie of the Year award, as you can see. For all intents and purposes, he has it lacked up. Jack Landis and Carl Muscatine do their best to catch him. Well, the hot streak doesn't end for Sawinski. He's on the pole. He's standing by with Dave Burns.
Kevin Sawinski has done everything his team has asked. He's been consistent, he's been fast, and he's shown he has the ability to win, as he did last week at Anderson. Now, my question for Kevin Sawinski is, if you've done all this as a rookie, have you set yourself up for greater pressure than if you hadn't done all that? Kevin, you were fastest at La Crosse, you sat on the pole, then you won your first race ever last week at Anderson. Have you put more pressure on yourself now in your rookie year than before these things happened or not?
Yeah, you know, definitely at the beginning of the year, we were hoping to win maybe one or two of these races. And, you know, the points battle in the rookie deal has gone super for us, and we're way out in front in net points. So myself and the crew, you know, we wanted to step up the level of the competition-wise and hopefully show what we got to offer maybe for next year running for a championship season.
Well, as Kevin looks toward 1997, he is one of the big stories of 1996. But here at Milwaukee, another big story has been the track all season long. And to tell us where things are today at Milwaukee, we go to Sandy Hang in turn 4.
Well, the track surface here at the Milwaukee Mile will be a real wild card. The reason, in previous races, the track literally peeled off in the corners. Engineers, they went back to the drawing board, and what they did, they came up with a mixture of steel slag, asphalt, and polymers. And this time they applied it at a higher temperature, 320 degrees, hoping that it will stick in the heat of battle. Well, that remains to be seen. But as early as this morning, track officials were spotted putting a little extra sealant on the seams. That's one story that will unfold today. Let's go back to the starting grid and my colleague, Dave Burns.
Well, we're standing by with Rick LaBelle, who is a Midwest Regional Sales Manager for AC-Delco, and he's not unfamiliar with starting engines here. Rick, we're going to let you get things started here at the Badgerland 150 today.
Gentlemen, start your engines!
The drivers making their final adjustments. We're about to let the ASA cars rip around the fastest track on the tour right after this. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. By Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. Buy new Armor Plate paint protectant from Armor All. It's like Armor All for your paint. And by Lava Hand Soap, pumice-powered lava, cleaning the hands that make America strong. Here's a look at some of the Milwaukee Mile course workers giving the big thumbs up to the AC-Delco Challenge Series competitors as they roll off out onto the racetrack, getting set for their couple of warm-up laps before we go racing. And Kevin Sawinski and Scott Hansen starting up on the front row. Both of those drivers running the Teasar motor. We'll spend a lot of time talking about that power plant here today.
In row number 2, we find Mike Miller, the quickest guy in practice, and the man in black, Mike Eddy, goes off 4th.
Right behind them in row 3, Joe Nod, who picked up his first win ever in ASA competition at Buffalo just a couple of weeks back, and Harold Fair, who felt he should have been on the front row here today.
Qualifying inside row number 4, we documented his progress here. Bob Seneca, the winner of the first ASA race back in 1978 here, and up-and-comer Tony Roper, another top 10 qualifying run.
Row 5 finds Brad Loney and Ted Smokestad, two drivers who've been knocking on the door of victory lane, still searching for that first career win.
Qualifying 11th is Brett Bell, who always does well on the larger tracks, and Tony Raines, a local favorite, team based right down the road here in Milwaukee.
J.D. Summers makes one of his few visits to the series this year, and USAC open wheel star and big-time points leader Kenny Irwin Jr. behind the wheel of a Pontiac.
Row number 8 finds Bill Baird qualifying 15th, and Brandon Sperling, a top 20 qualifying run for his Ultra Custom Wheels Pontiac.
Row 9, the Gentle Giant, Dennis Lampman, has a lot of fans in the grandstands here, and Carl Muscotton put the number 8 Chevy right alongside.
In the 10th row, Tom Jones and Rod Wheeler qualified the first round qualifying. Wheeler, out of Appleton, Wisconsin, looks for a good run today in a Chevrolet.
Row 11, the points leader, Gary St. Amant. Boy, he did not want to see himself starting here. Dave Sensma, who also just bobbled on his qualifying lap, should be a strong car.
Also provisional based on points, Mike Garvey, his third career start here in the Milwaukee Mile, his first ASA start, and Steve Holtzhausen, that wild card we've been talking about the past few weeks.
Row 13th is where you find Matt Kenseth, another Wisconsin driver who seems to do real well, and Tim Sutter in the 55 Chevy.
In the 14th row, Steve Carlson, the leader in the ARTCO Challenge Series points, his first start in ASA this year, and out of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, driving a Pontiac, Johnny Spaw in the 03.
Row 15's got Bob Dorstowitz and Andy Bozell, who's seen the biggest track he's ever raced on for the first time this week.
In the next row, we find Randy Ruhlman, the road racer in the purple Ford, and Aaron Huff, the former cross-country motorcycle rider in his New Palestine drywall service Pontiac.
Jack Landis, who's having a pretty good year in the rookie chase in the inside of row 17, and Billy Turner out of Oklahoma in car 58 on the outside.
In the next row, we find Dr. Yale Conley out of Vienna, West Virginia, and Dennis Berry making a return to ASA, driving in the OnSpa Racing Pontiac.
That is a look at the field of 36 AC-Delco Challenge Series cars as they continue their warm-up. There's a good look at the patching that was done to the inside of the racetrack. That's turns 1 and 2.
And as the cars go around the racetrack, they're also going to find a little bit of dust out there. There has not been a lot of two-wide racing. There was a 30-lap preliminary event yesterday, but overnight I know that it's pretty windy here in Milwaukee, Ralph, and it got a little dusty out there, so we may see some dust flying in the opening laps.
Well, the track description, as we said, it is the oldest racetrack in the country. It's basic 1 mile oval. No banking really to speak of.
Banked exactly like the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Again, we had some track problems. They've corrected those. The patches will be a story for a while. They've also brought a new tire compound, has Goodyear Racing, so Goodyear will hopefully monitor the right side tires very closely. They're a harder compound than what these ASA guys normally run.
The race analysis for this one, the 36 cars starting, it is a 150 lap event, and the manufacturer's chase will be heavily active here today.
15 Chevrolets, 13 Pontiacs, and 8 Fords. With the run last weekend, it looked like a very, very tight battle as Chevrolet got back in the thick of things, finishing 1 and 2 at Anderson. There we see a Ford and a Chevy go on by. Again, Gary Santamont, the point leader, having to go 21st on the starting grid. Outside of him, Dave Sensiba. So those guys have a lot of ground to cover in these opening laps.
Last year at this event, Mike Eddy looked like he stood a real good shot of winning it. However, a tow truck blocked him from exiting his pit lane, and that really cost him, Sandy.
Well, if there's one thing about Mike Eddy, you know he does not make the same mistake twice. After what happened last year, he was on the end. He decided to change his position in pit road. What his team did, they went for a pit stall in the middle. Even though the fastest cars are at both ends, Eddy is here in the middle. He has got extra space right here to the tail of the car, extra space to get in and out. He wants to make sure this year he will not be blocked, and his crew does. They felt it cost him the race last year. They don't want that to happen again next year. Now let's go down to Dave.
Well, one of the hardest things about the 4-tire stops today is not going to be the fact that they have to change 4 tires, but the fact that the jack man has to pick up the jack and get around the car, around all the air hoses and everything that are going to be going on. Alan Huffman for Bill Bear's crew is going to have to pick this thing up, go around to the other side of the car, and not trip over all the hoses and things that are going to be in the way. That, I'm told, is going to be the hardest thing about changing both sides of the ASA car's tires on the Milwaukee Mile today.
A couple of points there, I think, to make, Jimmy. One, Mike will still have a car in front of him, but he does have the escape behind him. They can push the car back and then get him out. And as far as the jack, a lot of race fans might be saying, well, that's no big deal. We see that done every week. Yes, that's true, but not in ASA racing, and that's the tricky part.
The AC-Delco Challenge Series once a year has a 4-tire change allowance on any caution flag. That's right here at the Milwaukee Mile. A very long pit lane. Of course, the Indy cars come here in early June right after the Indy 500 each year, so a very prestigious racetrack. These guys are looking forward to a run today.
Well, we got our Fisher starter with the green flag in hand, ready to go. And we're underway. Everybody thunders through the first 2 turns smoothly. Mike Eddy with a big problem slowing, coming out of turn number 2. There you see the GM Goodwrench Service Pontiac number 88 off to the inside of the racetrack. It might not matter where his pit stall is.
Sandy Hang is down in that pit area. We'll find out as he already brings it on the backstretch. He takes the cutoff on the back of the raceway.
Shocking developments with the 7-time AC-Delco Challenge Series champion. Meanwhile, look at Sawinski sliding the number 1 out wide through turns 1 and 2. Scott Hansen leads. Mike Miller comes up to challenge for second, dragging down the back straightaway. And it looks like Miller's going to have the advantage. Joe Knott now in the red 48 coming up from 4.
Sawinski ripped off a great qualifying lap. Only a single lap in qualifying for the 40 cars enter here this afternoon. 36 starters, and Sawinski had a great lap. But you can tell there he got wide and going into the first turn. Mike Miller awfully quick all day yesterday. Took advantage and now has second spot in the car cop Pontiac.
J.D. Summers now brings the number 22 down pit road as well. So problems developing early for those 2 challengers as that battle for second continues. And look at the closing Sawinski is able to do going into the turn, that has to back out of the throttle in the middle of the turn. That allows Mike Miller to pull away a little bit. Meanwhile, Hansen trying to check out.
Scott Hansen is indeed trying to check out, and it appears that J.D. Summers came down pit lane. It was black flag for jumping to start, so stop and go for the Summers Marine Ford.
Great shot at the bottom on the inside of turn number 1. Hansen stretching out a lead. Sawinski in the draft as they come down the backstretch.
Clean body work is very critical here. Gary St. Amant bolted on a new body. Joe Knott bolted on a new body. I'm sure Hansen had extra layers of wax put on his Metro Milwaukee Auto Auction Chevrolet. Very important down the straights to get clean air or stick in behind a guy similar to a super speedway. This is the largest racetrack the AC-Delco Challenge Series will run in 1996.
Harold Fair sits in 5th. It's Scott Hansen, Mike Miller, Kevin Sawinski, Joe Knott, Harold Fair, your top 5. Ted Smokestad, Tony Raines, Tony Roper, Kenny Irwin Jr., and Bob Seneker filling out the top 10.
We noticed how Kevin Sawinski could close going into the turns route, but Mike Miller in the middle and exiting the turns has an advantage. He now runs second. Sawinski here in the black number 1 running third. Very important, this racetrack is a perfect oval. 1/4 mile length straightaways. The turns themselves are identical at 1/4 mile length each, so really half the racetrack is turns. Miller working better right now in the turns, in the middle, and at the exit.
Tony Raines in car number 87 running down the back straightaway right now. He sits at about 7th position. Let's check in with the story on J.D. Summers with Dave Burns.
Well, Ralph, just a little bit to add to that, new rule, or a rule that was clarified in the AC-Delco Challenge Series this year, was passing before the flag stand on the left-hand side. Now, J.D. Summers does not run with the Tour the entire year, and he passed on the inside on the left before he got to the flag stand. That's why they brought him in for a stop-and-go penalty.
J.D. Summers did run 31st, excuse me, the race, he finished 31st at I-70 Speedway, his only other start in 1996 in the AC-Delco Challenge Series.
J.D. planning on running all the races from Toledo on through the rest of the season. You get a good look off the top of the roof. Well, Mike Eddy brings the Goodwrench Service Pontiac behind the wall. Sandy Haig.
Well, he's inside the car right now. He's too busy to
Bill
talk.
Baird, Sandy, I'm sorry. Bill Baird has lost it and has put the car in the wall over in turn number 4. And you can see he has done a lot of damage to the driver's side, the left side of the car, knocking both wheels off of that machine. The driver had such a good run at Lancaster earlier this year in Buffalo.
He'll be lucky if he gets back to pits. Look at how badly dog-legged that car is, and it looks like the rear end got knocked out on the Saturn Machine Chevrolet. Allen's Body Shop, well, they're going to have a little bit of work cut out for him before he head up to the Minnesota State Fair next weekend.
Bill started 15th. Let's go back to Sandy Haig with more on the Mike Eddy story before we send her off chasing Bill Baird.
Well, I tell you what, I was starting to tell you about what Mike is doing inside. They broke something in the distributor. He is down there digging, trying to pull it apart for himself. As you know, Mike is a hands-on kind of driver, and he is paying attention to detail on this one.
Well, you can see where it's broken right there. You can see the part broken on the distributor. Mike has got the cap off. And let's check in with Dave Burns now.
Well, we're in Bill Baird's pit, and they are going to the left side right away. They're having a real hard time getting the jack under the car because the car is down on the left side, and obviously the right front, or the left front as well as the left rear. And now they've got the entire team trying to lift the car up to get the jack underneath so they can go to work. They've got the tires ready to go as well. Seems to be some, the body is really hanging on here, but as you guys said, he hit the wall, a pretty good shot, and the tire coming off there is pretty well damaged. So we'll find out if it was a tire indeed that started the melee for Bill Baird.
I would have to think, Dave, that maybe there's some suspension damage in there, the way those tires were sitting as he tried to roll it off the wall. Well, we're just getting things started here at the Milwaukee Mile, the Badgerland 150 underway. Well, we knew that this weekend here in Milwaukee would have a lot to do with the points chase, and it's starting off that way already. Scott Hansen out front, the white 53. Only 1 point behind Gary St. Amant as we threw the green flag here today. He leads right now. That in alone could have amazing things to do in the point standings.
Gary St. Amant running 22nd right now on the racetrack, and he has his work cut out for him. He started 21st. He's settling in. A couple of guys on the move. Steve Holzhausen's from 24th to 14th already. Gary St. Amant dropped back a position, as we mentioned, and Dave Sensiba, who started alongside the wins Ford, has now progressed to 13th after starting in the 22nd spot.
The other story, of course, in the point standings has to do with Mike Eddy, who the Goodwrench Service Pontiac is out behind the wall right now. So Mike Eddy out of it, that changes big things with him in the back half of the top 10. Now you take a look at car number 18, which is Mike Miller, who is running along in second right now. Got his first win in some 15 years earlier this season at I-70, and Sandy, maybe he might have a second win here today.
Well, they are concerned about tires, and they do want that win. Duffy, this is their tire man, was over in the Goodyear area for more than an hour yesterday, going through tire by tire, looking for just the right setup. They wanted that perfect right side rear tire. One of the reasons is that they're using different tires here. Goodyear went back to the drawing board. The engineers came up with what the drivers think is a great solution to the tire dilemma here. The two lefts that they have are softer, and the rights, they're a little bit of a harder compound.
And Mike Miller knows how to get around this racetrack. In 1978, he ran the first ASA event, but in 1979 and 80, he had 2 runner-up finishes consecutive years after starting at 3rd position. Came back in 1980 with a 4th place finish when he was running the Dairyland Transport Oldsmobile. Fans around this area remember that car very well. A very unique shape to that Olds, but he sure has his Pontiac working today. Now closing the gap on Hansen to within 2 car lengths as they exit turn 2 here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, look at him close. Mike Miller really coming off at turn number 2 well. Sucked right up onto the backside of Hansen as they charge down that long back straightaway and sweep it down into turn number 3. Well, Bill Baird went into the wall hard, and Dave Burns has got that story for us.
Yeah, Ralph, he did hit the wall hard. I spoke with Bill. He said he's okay, but he took a pretty good shot. He does not know what happened. He's not sure that a tire went down. I did inspect the Goodyear that came off. The left rear, it had a cut in it. That could have happened on his way back to the pits as well. So we're really not sure. Bill just lost control of the car. They're working on the left front suspension. When they set the car back down, there was nothing there to hold the car. So if they can get that replaced, they think they can get Bill's Saturn Machines Chevrolet back in the Badgerland 150 today.
Only 17 laps down at this point, so they would be able to get back out there and hopefully pick up some points.
Now here's Hansen and Mike Miller. Off of turn number 4, Mike Miller stayed way down on the racetrack. His good old friend Dick Trickle had his own racing groove around here. Before this track was repaved this year, you knew it was the Trickle line because the left front danced in the dirt in turns 2 and 4. Mike Miller running that very same line, closing the gap here on race leader Scott Hansen.
In talking to a lot of the drivers, Jim, not too many of them really changed their lines as we have that battle for the lead going into and out of turn 4, changing with Mike Miller taking the spot. Boy, he's starting to pull away right away. Look at that. Miller opens up about a 2.5 car length lead coming up the front straightaway, and that shortens back up as we go into 3 or into 1. And now Kevin Sawinski, the Brown and Sharp Chevy number 1. Closes right up in it as well.
If you just joined us, Kevin.
Oh, he's going for second. Look at that.
Wow.
Has Hansen got a problem? Boy, he slowed up a lot.
Tires may be going away. Again, new compound here at the Milwaukee Mile for the right side tires. Crews did not have an indication of how hard the tires would be until Friday at noon when the Goodyear truck pulled in. So Hansen maybe took a guess at the start of this race. Good enough for the start, but now we're 21 laps into it, and Hansen's back to 3rd.
Well, you never know with Scott Hansen. He could just be being sneaky. Letting the others get out front a little bit, save his tires. As long as he's got him within eyesight, Scott Hansen still in the thick of it. Mike Miller leads in front of the crowd here at Milwaukee. We're back to the Milwaukee Mile here at the Milwaukee Fairgrounds, Wisconsin State Fair Park. Mike Miller is out front and leading in front of Kevin Sawinski, Scott Hansen, Joe Nod, and Ted Smokestack. That is your top 5 at this point. Raines, Fair, Irwin, Boney, and Bob Seneker round out the top 10. 23 laps completed. There is the gap from 1st to 2nd. That is Kevin Sawinski in that Brown and Sharp number 1, the black car, and Dennis Berry going down a lap. And look at Hansen struggling. Jim, now I got to believe there's got to be something going on with Scott Hansen's car. Let's check in with Sandy Hang.
Well, right now you can see his team scrambling. They feel they might have cut a right front or it might be going down. That's his tire man, Lynn Mueller, right there, who's also crew chiefing today. He's got the tire on the wall up and ready to go. A tough break here for Hansen's team.
Definitely problems for Scott Hansen as the number 53 sees a yellow come out. Boy, that is exactly what Hansen needed at this point. And we got one hard into the wall. That's Bob Dorsowitz, and you can see the fluid coming out of the front radiator. That one going nowhere. Bob moving around inside the car. He seems to be okay.
That car is severely hurt, though. We'll hope Bob's okay. And as you mentioned, he's moving around, but as the frontal impact there, Bob Dorsowitz, of 56 years of age, returning to stock car racing after a 16-year absence, starting his company, Engineered Polymer Products. Now back behind the lane automotive Chevrolet. He gives the crowd and his crew, more importantly, a wave. They know he's okay. And the Waterville, Michigan driver done for today, but boy, what a lick.
Well, let's see how it happened.
This is exiting turn 4, coming down to the front straightaway, and you see a car turn sideways, and he high-sided it. Wow.
Ouch.
May have gotten a little loose off of turn 4.
Well, it is very slippery down there. It's probably one of the tougher parts going into turn 1 and coming off of turn 4. Probably 2 of the trickier spots. Now there is Scott Hansen in the pits, and Sandy right there at the top of the frame.
Well, you can see that they are putting on 2 right sides, something that they knew that they had to do. You might know that Scott Hansen did some testing here for Goodyear early in the year. They tried the first compound. Oh, they're putting on the 2 left sides as well. They tried a first compound that didn't quite work. Scott worked with Goodyear. They developed this compound that they're using today. Scott says there was a 100-degree temperature difference in that first compound and the one that they are using today. And early on, Scott was really pleased with the tire handling. Oh, it keeled on him.
Well, the crew struggling a little bit through that pit stop, and Gary St. Amant, the wins for Thunderbird, number 7 in pit road, as well as his Rod Wheeler, the 01. Services completed on both of those cars, as well as Scott Hansen's, and everybody rolling back out onto the racetrack as they continue to clean up Bob Dorsewitz's wreck. Well, as we get set to go to break, take a look at what happened at Bob Dorsewitz at speed. Stay with us. Well, they're still cleaning things up here at the Milwaukee Mile from Bob Dorsewitz's crash over in turn number 4. They have put the hood down on the Good Wrench Service Pontiac number 88 of Mike Eddy, and the 7-time champ has climbed back inside the number 88.
We see longtime crew member Bill Dorsey there helping Mike get the helmet back in and get the belts on. Bill's daughter Linda unfortunately had an accident about a week ago. She's on the mend in Michigan, and our thoughts with her on a speedy recovery as Bill goes to work as usual on the black 88.
Al Matthews from GMSPO standing behind him, as well as Mike's younger son. Did you get a sucker from Bill today?
No, and I missed the ice cream bar yesterday from Down Jones. He had 3 coolers full. I go over there, Steve Carlson takes the last.
Bill always brings lollipops with him to the racetrack and hands them out to everybody. There's Mike Miller up front. Now, Mike Miller has had 5 top 5s this year, but he hasn't had one since Hawkeye Downs in Cedar Rapids, and that was back on July 6th. So maybe things starting to turn back around. All those top 5s coming in the first half of the season, well, actually the first quarter of the season for Mike Miller, including a win at I-70, a second career AC-Delco Challenge Series win for him. First win coming some 15 years before.
For as strong as Mike Miller's running here in the AFC 1000 Pontiac, he's only led 2 other races this year, including his race-winning effort at I-70 Speedway. This will eclipse only 50 laps led on the year. There's been about 3,400 laps total this year, and yeah, 3,350 laps completed. He's only led 48 on the season, so Mike wants to get out front, lead some more laps. Again, 5 more points, the bonus for the driver who leads the most laps in any ASA event.
Pace car still out there for at least 1 more lap. There is Dennis Berry. Interesting story in the 37. Was considered to be one of the leading candidates for the Pat Schauer Rookie of the Year award. Dave Anspot normally drives this car. Dave had carpal tunnel surgery on his left hand, and the racing school principal banged his hand earlier in the week and really aggravated that. So Dennis, who was relieved of the driving duties of the Finetti number 5 earlier this season, standing by with helmet in hand and was tabbed as a driver to fill in for him here this weekend. And it's good to see Dennis Berry back behind the wheel of an ASA car. We'd like to see him here. Let's go to Dave Burns.
Well, just to follow up on that a little bit, Ralph, Dennis Berry did say that he was looking for seat time here at Milwaukee. He'd always wanted to race at Milwaukee, and this was the opportunity that he had to be able to do that. So Dennis is in the 37 car. He stopped for a pit stop this time. Also, Billy Turner back in the back came in as well, and they joined us. I have heard a report that in turn number 4, the track is coming up on the outside of the patch that was in turn number 4. So let's keep our eyes on that.
As we go back to green. The field funneling through 1 and 2, and there you see Scott Hansen way back in the pack now. Has to fight his way back up through the field. And Dennis Landman, the gentle giant, off the pace in car number 9. So the Chevy driver trying to find his way to the bottom of the racetrack so he can get out of the racing groove and out of everybody's way, and the battle continues up front. Mike Miller and Kevin Sawinski. Joe Knott sits in 3rd, Ted Smokestad is in 4th, and Tony Raines runs in 5th.
With Lampman dropping off the pace, again, he's got about 50 fans in the stands, including his mom, Arlene, who brought a bunch from Barricade Flasher, and they put the no-touch logo on the car for Doug Mayer this race, so they're looking for a better run. They now brought his car in and are changing right side tires on Lampman's number 9.
There's that big Valvoline hood of Joe Knott. He's really climbed back up into this. He spent a lot of time watching their turn times, segment times through the turns on number 48. That was a big story with a lot of the teams here this week. Just over 7 seconds was the average from the entrance of either set of turns to the exit.
For the 9th time in 12 races, a brand new track record was established in qualifying. 30.959 seconds was Kevin Sawinski's lap time speed. So indeed, corner speed's critical here. Straightaways, you have to have the right gearing, but getting through these long sweeping 90-degree turns is the key.
And Jack Landis brings the Maisto 07 of Noah Yoder's Ford down pit road. So problems developing for him. We should not see regular pit stops until somewhere around lap 75 is what most of the teams felt they could do. It would not necessarily be for tires, but more for fuel. In fact, a lot of the teams, Steve Holshausen joking with you and I earlier today, saying that these new Goodyears were as hard as rocks and would not be a problem as far as wear.
They can go about 100 miles in these ASA cars with a 22-gallon fuel cell. This being a 1-mile track, 100 laps would be the maximum. But they are looking about halfway around, 75, 80 laps somewhere in there to get a 4-tire change. And look at this.
Teasar Power Plant doing the trick down the back straightaway for Kevin Sawinski. The Teasar motor built in the state of Minnesota, which is where the Lefevre Racing number 1, the Brown and Sharp of Kevin Sawinski, is based out of. Not necessarily a factory Teasar team, if you will, but the fact that they're located so close to them, I think, has a lot to do with the working relationship between the race team and the folks at Teasar, and they seem to have a good motor program working with this group.
It's a fairly new team. Mike Chaffee came over working with Jay Sauter. The number followed them to Lefevre Racing, but really the experience lies in the crew chief, and the crew has to gel together, which they've done in magical fashion, as again Sawinski takes the lead here at Milwaukee.
There's Gary St. Amant, car number 7. The points leader coming into today's race here in Milwaukee. We saw him go in and out of pit road. They came in, changed some tires, then brought him back into check the stagger. Looks like he's in about 27th position. And at this point in time, he is behind Scott Hansen. Hansen right now looks like he is in
about 20th position.
20th position, I guess, yeah.
As Gary St. Amant continues the circle, it's 1 mile oval. Let's check in his pits with Sandy Haig.
His crew members here are working around, and the reason they came in, they had a tie situation. They said it was just way too tight. Gary couldn't stand it. There was no progress. He said he couldn't hold on to the car, so they decided to just bring it on in, try to make some adjustments. They're hoping that might have corrected it, but right now they're just not sure, and they're going over there to set up again.
Yale Conley just in front of Gary St. Amant, the racing surgeon, and that's Rod Wheeler in the 01 in front of him. Back to the front. There's Kevin Sawinski, still out in front of Mike Miller and Joe Knott. So let's go ahead and take it to break as we watch Kevin Sawinski circulating out front here at the Badgerland 150. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Well, the swapping of the lead continues here at the Milwaukee Mile. It is now Mike Miller's turn once again to lead the pack around this famous racetrack. Let's show you how it took place just moments ago.
This entering turn number 2 now. You see Sawinski drifting a little bit higher. That patch area is the lower groove, and he got above that. A little bit of a slip there, and Mike Miller takes the lead back on lap 43 for the second time this afternoon. The car cop Pontiac shows the way.
Joe Knott and Ted Smokestad following them. As we work our way back off in turn 2 once again. Leader on lap 43, Mike Miller.
You don't think these guys are pushing here. Keep an eye on Mike Miller's left front fender right behind the front wheel. It's flapping just a little bit. So if that body isn't fastened down, this fiberglass bodywork is moving around here on the Milwaukee Mile. Also, some rear windows on these cars will buckle because of the downforce over the car on the straightaways. ASA has tried to prevent that by adding more supports and more straps inside the cockpit on these machines.
This could be a career day for Ted Smokestad. Not a top 5 yet this year, and right now he sits 4th in the Super America number 32. There he is. Started 10th today, and running strong inside the top 5.
Smokestad going home of sorts next weekend to Minnesota at the fairgrounds where his dad raced for many years.
Minnesota team's having a pretty good run here.
I'd say.
Mike Miller, originally out of the state of Minnesota, spent a lot of time up there, and Smokestad, Kevin Sawinski's team from Minnesota.
There's the Pontiac of Smokestad again. Very strong crew. His brother Craig's the crew chief. His sister-in-law Lisa is the tire specialist. Close-knit family running the ASA circuit in his second season. His third season. He's extremely quick here early on in Milwaukee. Only 49 laps are in.
Here's a look at car 83 having some problems just moments ago. Andy Bozell.
Whoa. He's driven at Kalamazoo Speedway. He's never been to a racetrack this size, and he gets into the fence, and that's a lucky kiss on the wall, Ralph. We've seen cars here never make it off the wall after brushes like that. That wall just brings him right in.
You get a look at Joe not having problems up in that loose stuff. I was just about to say, as they work their way around Dennis Berry, that opens the door for Smokestad to slide up into third. The racetrack, as you get, well, maybe 2 grooves high, just above that, it really gets slippery in a hurry here. There's a lot of loose marbles, as they say, up on the outer grooves here. You get up in there, and there's really no catching it.
The track was repaved this spring, $1.9 million improvement here on the Milwaukee Mile. They repatched it last Friday, so the track is less than a week new in the corners. That darker black area is a brand new patch laid down, a higher melting point. They brought it in, they rolled it at a temperature of 340 degrees, so it will withstand the bias-ply tire temperatures here this afternoon that Goodyear has brought along. But we'll see if this heat and the excessive wear from 36 race cars continuing to circle the speedway will make a difference. Smokestad now getting around Joe Knott and the Raby Valvoline Ford. Very strong run for the 32-hour Smokestad. Super America folks must be happy at this racetrack. Many races won by Dick Trickle in Super America colors.
I'm sorry about that. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Yeah, Jack Landis has problems, and they have chased about everything. They thought it was a valve cover gasket. They thought it might be the oil filter. They've now decided it is the lines around the oil filter. There's one that is somehow not connected. Now, I talked with Jack, and he tells me that there was nothing for him outside of the one groove. He tried to get up there one time, and he said his car definitely would not stick. So they're trying to keep it down in one groove, it sounds like, most of the way around the Milwaukee Mile.
Well, the third caution flag of the day now waves as the pace car pulls out in front of Mike Miller, coming out on lap 53. This will slow things down as Dennis Lampman has pulled his number 9 down pit road once again. Jack Landis still sitting on pit road, as heard from Dave Burns, so this will help the Gentle Giant and his brother Jim get a look at things. Looks like some of the teams may be making their way to pit road.
This is lap 53, and it could be a time where these drivers want to close things up. They don't think this will be the last yellow, but they can go 100 miles or 100 laps on fuel and tires.
Looks like Mike Miller's pulled to the bottom, Tony Raines, Bob Seneker, there's Brad Loney in there, Joe Knott. Looks like Sawinski trying to nose his way down to the bottom to make their way down pit road. Oh boy, everybody but Smokestad, it looks like, gonna dive down pit road. Well, is Smokestad guessing right or guessing wrong?
They're taking a look at the racetrack. That brings out our third caution period, allowing these drivers to come in and pit, and it's wholesale pit stops for the field.
Remember, a lot of these crews have not had experience changing 4 tires under a yellow. Sandy?
Well, I'm down in Bob Seneker's pit. His team won the pit stop competition last week at Anderson. They went to the right side first. They're now got the jack up on the left side. They're rotating those, moving those tires around. Looks like they're going to be able to make it down in good condition. Also just down the road, Hansen is picking on 2 new sets of lefts. Let's go to Dave.
In Kevin Sawinski's pit, they're having a little bit of trouble getting around the car. Now they're going to the left side. They've already changed the right side tires, and they'll have Kevin down and away, but he's well back in the field. Tony Roper beat everyone off of pit lane. Guys, they must have just changed 2 tires.
Kevin Sawinski had a pretty good stop. Looked like some of the best stops were with Joe Knott's crew, Tony Raines' crew, and of course Mike Miller's crew, who has done a lot of work on their pit stops this year. Well, we're going to step out for just a minute as Steve Holzhausen, number 5, gets ready to make a pit stop. We'll come right back to Milwaukee after this. We're back to the Badgerland 150, the AC-Delco Challenge Series cars visiting the Milwaukee Mile on an annual event with the ASA Tour. Ted Smokestad out in front, leading his first ever laps in ASA competition. He'll pick up 5 points as a lap leader. Super America team having a good run here today.
2 top 10 finishes on the year, Ralph. So he's looking for another good run, and it looks like it's happening here in Milwaukee.
Bob Dorschwitz is out of the care center. Sandy?
Well, first of all, Bob, are you okay?
I'm fine.
What happened out there in turn 4?
Well, we got up a little high, came up in back of a car that was running quite slower than me. I faded up a little bit higher, tried to stay close to him as I could, and we got up in some loose stuff, and the car just went way high. It still appears like we're running a 1-groove track between the turns. That's both 1 and 2, and of course 3 and 4. I don't know if it's going to get stickier or not, but I know even practice yesterday, it seemed to be a little bit loose up there. I probably wouldn't have tried it, but the car in front of us was just running that much slower. We tried to fade just a little bit high, and it got loose on us.
Was it slick because that patch is pulling up, or is it just slick because it's slick?
Yeah, I think it's just slick because it's slick. Now, they do have a new patch of asphalt on the lower groove. That seems to be sticking a lot better. We get up in the high part, and it's just like ice.
Okay, thanks, Bob Dorschwitz.
So the pace car pulls off, and Ted Smokestad will lead another lap as we go back to green. There's a good look at Harold Fair's CarQuest number 81. Harold having a nice run here today. Sits in 6th position. The white number 81 right there. Got an engine inside that they've dubbed it the Beast. Really feels like they've got themselves a good motor program. This is the first engine they've built in-house. Dennis Studable doing all the motor work now for Harold, and they felt that maybe that motor was strong enough to put him on the pole. Harold felt like he just bobbled a little bit.
Harold currently being scored in 6th position, and a car that ran up to 10th position before pit stops is now behind the wall. It is the car of Matt Kenseth, the AutoCat Wagner Automotive 08 car. He was running extremely well.
Here comes the freight train from the back half of the field. Those are all the guys that were up front. In the middle there you see the number 1 of Kevin Sawinski, the 14 of Kenny Irwin Jr., the Bluebird, Bob Seneker, and the 84 in that mix. And up front, Carl Muscotten in the 8, trying to get to the inside and make a bid for the lead. And he's going to pull it off, and here comes Brett Bell right along with him.
For the 2nd time this year, rookie contender Carl Muscotten in the Carbright Chevrolet Odessa Auction sponsor machine leads an ASA event.
Steve Holzhausen in the black number 5, the Finetti Motorsports car, running in 4th. A winner earlier this season, picking up a victory at Berlin. And now look at Smokestad bobbling coming off the turn number 4, and Holzhausen sneaks past. And that would be the 83 right behind him.
For as high as he got on that racetrack, I thought he might want to come in and pit. Andy Bozell, we're speaking of in the DeBrew Chevrolet 83, but Ralph stayed out.
Bozell is credited with 6. Remember, we saw him have problems early on, smacking the wall.
Hit the wall and continued on. The impressive run for the driver who hopes to go Rookie of the Year next year with Danny Crookston as the owner in '97.
Make that 5th for Bozell, 6th for Harold Fair, and behind them, the black car is Mike Eddy. But remember, Mike is laps down, credited with 34th at this point as you take a look at the full field rundown with 58 laps completed. So Carl Muscatine out front. No top 5s for Carl so far in 1996. This could be one of those races, Jim, where we see a lot of different names up front because of strategy of where you position yourself on the racetrack with your pit stops.
Indeed, and these guys pitted on lap 53. They may be able to go the distance. We'll see how the tires wear. We mentioned how hard they may have been, the compound. Another factor that the drivers were counting on was the track going away just a little bit. They did sweep it in turns 1 and 2 on our last caution. So a lot of things still to be decided. But as you mentioned, strategy. Holzhausen now running in the 3rd position. Smokestad 4th, Bozell 5th, Harold Fair is 6th as they enter turns 3 and 4. The track looks fine there. A wide exit, 73 feet wide is the front stretch here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Steve Holzhausen in the Finetti Motorsports number 5, the Tony's Pizza car. It is Holzhausen's chassis and Don Finetti's motor this week. They feel that's a pretty good combination in that pick and save number 5.
When they put the Sterling motor in this Ford, they had a clearance problem with the bar that bolts across the cross members on the front end of the chassis. The distributor cap actually cracked, and he did not attempt a qualifying run. It shut down on him on the front stretch. He had to come in on points, so now we see Holzhausen's true colors as he was one of the faster cars in practice. He is yet to pit in the Tony's Pizza pick and save Ford, but he's extremely quick.
Ted Smokestad riding in 4th. Craig is his crew chief, and he's with Dave.
Well, we're of course going to ask him about staying out there. We know you wanted to lead some laps out there. That was your primary purpose, but do you really need a pit stop bad now, or is the car okay?
The car seems fine right now. We do need 4 tires. The track is coming apart down in 1 and 2 pretty bad. It's only a 1-groove track right now, so down in 1 and 2. So, but I think we'll be all right.
How racy does Ted feel?
He feels good today. He's excited. He likes this track, so we should be in good shape.
Okay, keep an eye on him, guys. He's not out of this thing yet. They do need a pit stop, though.
Well, we are working lap 66 at this point, and we said lap 75 was the halfway point and where most of the teams would try to make their way into pit lane. Some of them have taken advantage of it already. Some of them still need to pit. We'll find out how that works out. The Smokestad Super America crew can get to victory lane. Stay with us. Back to the Milwaukee Mile, the Badgerland 150. That is the fight for the lead. Carl Muscatine and Brett Bell. 2 young Chargers that have been involved with the ASA series for a couple of years now. Intermittently.
Muscatine making a full run this year, Rookie of the Year, currently 3rd in the points.
The fight for 3rd raging on behind them. Ted Smokestad for Super America 32. Pick and save Tony's Pizza number 5 of Steve Holzhausen.
Holzhausen has had 2 top 5 finishes here. He's run 9 times at the Milwaukee Mile, 2 top 5 finishes, and the rest of the finishes, well, we're not going to talk about him because he's not finished better than 16th in the other runs here. So it's feast or famine for Holzhausen as a driver. This team coming together with the car owner Rick Scelza, molding and melding his operation with Don Finetti, running the black number 5 on the equipment that Rick Scelza competes with out of Rice Lake, Wisconsin. And we mentioned Finetti's motor in this car this race, so these guys are working together well thus far. One team based in Rice Lake, which is about an hour and a half north of La Crosse, near the Twin Cities, and now the other team based right here in Milwaukee.
Dennis Landman done for the day, Sandy.
Well, you're looking at his repairs in his cars. Looks like it's a rocker arm. His brother Jimmy and the crew trying to get it going. Dennis, how was it out there?
The racetrack was coming apart in 1 and 2, but otherwise it was going along pretty good. Barricade Flasher, Turbo Blue Monte Carlo was running well. Then we started having, we got a flat tire at the beginning there. Put a tire on, lost a lap, and went back out, and it was running real well, and I think we broke a rocker arm now.
Can you get her back out?
I don't think we got any spare parts. I think we used them yesterday off of somebody else's motor. So.
Well, the 4th caution comes out on lap 71 as you heard Dennis Landman is done. Joe Knott spinning and saving it.
Going to turn number 1, he had a train of cars behind him, and as he slides, holy cow.
Look at that.
You talk about days of thunder not being able to see anything. That was it in full view of the grandstands in turn number 1, and he saved it.
The car just behind him, was that Tim Sauter? It was white with blue numbers. Hard to tell. Whoever it was did a great job of avoiding him.
This camera mounted at the end of pit wall heading into turn number 1. So we'll see the sideways 48.
Wow.
Like a flash, he was gone. We are not certain the car behind him.
It was probably either Hansen or Sauter, but I think well, there's Hansen now, but
Hansen
that is
front end
after the spin. I don't know. Whoever it was did a tremendous job of saving it. Well, lap 73, and everybody's heading to pit lane. So all those that needed him are now getting the chance, including Holzhausen and Smokestad. And Smokestad loses a crew member. Stay with us. We have just gone to a yellow flag condition before we stepped away because of Joe Knott doing this. And I suggest you cinch down the belts on your parking lounger as you go for this ride. There's a good reason why that's an unmanned camera. And that will flat spot some tires, won't it, Dave Burns?
Sure will, and the flat spots on Joe's tires are pretty apparent here on these Goodyear Racing Eagles. You can see these are the two of the tires that were contacted with the track at the time Joe spun. They don't say why he lost it down there. I can't remember if you guys know that or not, but this is what they talk about when they see a flat spot on a Goodyear Racing Eagle.
Well, we have shaken things up again as a green flag comes out because of all the pit stops. Tony Raines now inherits the lead as we go back to green. Let's take a look at the mid-race recap as we get this one started. Once again, 6 different leaders today.
6 lead changes, and with Scott Hansen jumped from the outside pole to lead. Mike Miller's led twice. Kevin Sawinski has led twice as well. Still 27 cars with the 36 starters on lead lap. We've had 4 cautions for 20 laps, but as we get back to green here, it's going to be very exciting to see how those tire strategies played out. A number of teams made pit stops here, and they may go the distance now at the Milwaukee Mile. 5 cars behind the wall. And Tony Raines trying to extend a lead here on Kevin Sawinski in the Jack Links Pontiac, picking up sponsorship on his clean burn machine from Doug Mayer, who did not make the race today.
Tony Raines, that how he let out prepared machine, and there's a battle for 5th with, make that 4th, with Dave Sensiba in the number 4, J.D. Summers in the 22, and Scott Hansen in this as well in car 53.
Hansen has some front end damage, so he might have been that mysterious white car. His hood has kicked up a little bit at the windshield, Ralph, and that Ware's Chevrolet 53 now may have a little bit of a drag coming down the front straightaway. You see the hood now may be blocking Scott Hansen's view because he sits very low in that Chevy.
Well, if there is damage to the hood, that might answer the question as to what got Joe Knott loose. On the other hand, he might have just been on the brakes that hard. Hard to tell.
Dave Sensiba started the day 22nd in the Lane Automotive West Michigan Chevrolet dealers Chevy. His teammate Kenny Irwin, a great run in the Wins Pontiac. Sensiba in 4th, J.D. Summers in 5th in his 2nd start in ASA this season.
So right now, Gary St. Amant sits all the way back in 25th position in the Wins Ford. He was the points leader coming into the start of this one. And with Scott Hansen now running along solidly in 6th position, boy, this is going to change the point standings in a big way if things stay this way all the way through the Badgerland 150.
Scott Hansen has already led a lap and led the first 19 circuits, so he picked up 5 points for leading a single lap. St. Amant has yet to break the top 20 even after pit stops. So we'll see if his woes continue. As we mentioned in the beginning of the broadcast, Ralph, he only has 2 top 10 finishes here out of 16 starts, does Gary St. Amant. So this is not one of his better racetracks.
Hansen as well running one of those T-Zar motors that we've been talking about here today. Let's take a look at the lead change.
Sawinski again muscling off of turn number 2 where he took it away from Mike. Make that turn 4 down the front stretch here. Just a better line coming off of 4. A lot of power to the bottom there. Textbook pass for Sawinski. I don't think they should have the rookie stripes on that car anymore, Ralph. 2 poles, including here today, and a win last week in Anderson for Sawinski in the Brown and Sharp Chevy.
Tony Raines had a bit of an up and down season as well. 5 times he's been inside the top 5. No wins yet, but he has come close, taking seconds at Berlin in August and Jennerstown back in July. Loves a hot day. The hotter the better for Tony Raines. Smiling pretty big as he was standing out in the sunshine on pit road signing autographs, as they do at all the races with the AC-Delco Challenge Series. They let the fans down on the racetrack before the race starts to get autographs from the drivers. There's Bob Seneker. 21 times he's finished inside the top 10 in the 29 starts he has had here so far at the Milwaukee Mile. That, to me, Jim, is an amazing stat.
I think I've seen all 5 of his victories here at the Milwaukee Mile. And when he wins at this racetrack, it's in dominating fashion. He's making his way through the field. As you saw there, he's improved 10 spots from his starting position, but running as well as he does here at Milwaukee, I would think he's settled in now in a good pace, trying to wear these guys out a little bit. He usually waits till the end of the race, but I don't think he's going to wait here with the conditions of the racetrack breaking up a bit.
Tom Jones into the wall, the Zero Hero. And heavy damage to the right side of the Zero machine. So that will bring out our 5th caution flag of the day here on lap 83. Scheduled 150.
The Pala's Restaurant Days in Pontiac, right up the road here in West Allis is where he's staying this weekend. Very nice people up that way helping out Tom the last couple of races.
The Chicago Bulls dedication hood that he had, or commemorative hood. Jones, a huge fan of the Chicago Bulls, did a special commemorative hood that he displayed on the Zero machine earlier this year. Is now hanging, if you visit the Chicago area, in Frank's Lounge, I'm told, on the north side of Chicago. Proudly displayed over the bar. Sandy Hang down already in Tom Jones's pit.
Well, you can see it looks like he cut the right side tire in all of this. They're trying to get the jack under. Oh, gonna have to use some muscle from the whole team to even get the jack underneath the car. There's, you can see, quite a bit of body damage on the right side of the car. So it's going to be a little bit of a long pit stop here for Tom Jones.
They had major motor problems with that car yesterday. Changed the motor. Thought they were in better shape today, but bad luck for him. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, guys, here is why Jack Landis is out for the day. This is a fitting that goes into the oil pump in the motor. Yesterday afternoon in hot laps, Jack Landis lost the car in turn number 4. He hit the wall. They believe that pushed this fitting closer to the oil filter. It's been rubbing on there all day, and it put a hole in a fitting just like this right about here. Oil began spewing out. He had to pull the car in. They have no chance to get that fixed and get Jack back out for today's race.
Thank you, David. So 2 of the competitors having problems here today as the field continues to lap around the 1 mile oval here in Milwaukee. Lap 85 down. It's Kevin Sawinski, Tony Raines, Bob Seneker, Dave Sensiba, J.D. Summers, the top 5 as we step away just for a moment. We are back to the Badgerland 150 at the Milwaukee Mile, where Kevin Sawinski now leads for the 2nd time today in the Brown and Sharp number 1. Make sure you tune in later on tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern time when our good buddy Rick Benjamin will be hosting Race Day. Rick will recap all the weekend's events right here on TNN Motorsports.
For the 2nd time today, Kevin Sawinski has the point. He won the pole position, $1,000 from AC-Delco Rapid Fire. He lost the lead in turn number 2 on the opening circuit to Scott Hansen. Sawinski now back out front, passing Tony Raines' textbook fashion down the front straightaway under green. This is our 5th caution of the afternoon. If you just joined us, 87 of 150 circuits complete at America's legendary oval.
It's kind of fun to go back through the ASA record books and see the names of some of the guys who have won here at the Milwaukee Mile. Dick Trickle, Mark Martin, Alan Kulwicki, and Rusty Wallace.
Mark Martin won a race here with 2 broken legs in that old orange number 2 Dillon car. And he had an accident. He was running some ASA and running some USAC stock car races, and he had casts on both lower legs. Won the race.
Really? Interesting. Sandy?
Well, I'm down with Tom Jones. They lifted the hood. Looks like the problems are a lot more than a cut tire. Tom, what's going on?
Well, it appears that there's the gravel's getting pretty fierce out there, and all it takes is one wheel in the wrong spot, and the car, you got no control. So you just got up and slapped the wall, and it broke something in the steering. I'm not sure what yet.
Okay, let's go down pit road to Dave Burns, who's with Bill Baird.
Well, we looked at Bill a little bit earlier, and they were working pretty hard to try to get this thing back in here, but looks like maybe their work is going to be longer than you thought. Can you get it back in at all today?
Well, you know, if we can get back out and still have 40, 45 laps left in the race, David, you know, we can pick up a couple positions. That's all we're hoping for now.
Okay, when you were out there, Bill, it was still early yet, but can you tell what the track is starting to do?
Well, you know, whenever we were out there, my car was really quick, and, you know, it's easy to say that when you're sitting here behind the wall, but I think we had a real good race car here today. Just my misfortune down there. The lap before that, I got off in the dirt coming off turn 4. The one car sort of trapped me down a little bit, and I don't know where I picked up something or what, but went in turn 3 and it just rotated on me and hit the wall. So we might be able to come up with a couple places, but that's about it for us.
Yeah, this has also been a racetrack where some new names have found their way into victory lane. Joe Shear has snuck in and picked up a win here. Junior Hanley, the great Canadian stock car driver, has picked up a win here. So when the ASA Tour comes into a track like Milwaukee, sometimes it's a great equalizer.
And in 1983, when Alan Kwiecki won the Miller 200 here, it really propelled his career. That's when he decided, I do have the experience and the knowledge to go. He ran some races down south. The 1992 Winston Cup champion, competed many times here at the Milwaukee Mile, winning in 1983. And I really believe that started his look towards the south.
Well, the American Speed Association will be racing live on TNN a few more times this year. We'll be headed off to Cedar Rapids, Iowa once again. What a great place to host an ASA race. The fans up there just love it. The hometown of Brad Loney. We'll be moving on to Toledo, Ohio. Back to Salem, Indiana. Of course, the track was closed last year. They've reopened it, and we'll be going right back there for 300. And wrap it all up with the Southern National 300 from Southern National Speedway. The first time ever to Kenly, North Carolina with the American Speed Association. Taking Jones's car off here. Well, that makes for a long trip down pit lane, doesn't it?
6th car to go behind the wall, and if they ever get there, again, that whole right front looks like whatever's bolted on, Ralph, has come apart or found the fence.
Put some music to that 1-2 kick. 1-2 kick. AC Mike Eddy still circulating around out there. They got the distributor cap fixed on his car, but slowly working his way up through with cars falling out. Mike now listed in 31st. It's going to really hurt him in the point standings today. And Kevin Sawinski, who's right in the thick of this points chase coming into this one, he's leading it again here, and he might pick up another win. Boy, what would that do to him in the point standings?
7th in points, 110 behind Dave Sensiba in the overall standings, leading the rookie standings over Jack Landis and Carl Muscatin, who's led earlier today.
Of course, Kevin having won championships before, so even though he's a rookie in ASA, he is a veteran when it comes to championship racing. Holzhausen dives to the bottom of Brad Loney. Brett Bell tries to follow him. There's Mike Garvey in the 23 car. Mike having a decent day inside the top 15. Coors Light number 23 as you look at the field. Here comes Hansen.
Talk about a cannon shot. He went down the back straightaway, and J.D. Summers, who is known for the horsepower under his hood, really lost a lot of ground as Hansen came charging down the inside.
Battle for the lead up the front straightaway. Nose to nose as we cross the line. Credit it to Tony Raines. 87 takes over the point once again, and he'll try to pull away. 92 of the scheduled 150 laps in the books.
1 year ago, Tony Raines stayed out on the racetrack and had the race won. There was a late race caution. Mike Eddy and Glenn Allen Jr. along with Bob Seneker came in and pitted. That cost Tony Raines the win. He finished up in the 3rd position behind Glenn Allen Jr., who passed him in the closing circuit. So I think he wants to stay out front and use this strategy to get some distance.
I keep seeing that blue number 84 sitting there too, Bob Seneker. As you look at this fight for 6th position, that's Tim Sauter in the 55, J.D. Summers in the 22, Carlson in the 2, Steve Carlson, the Arco points leader in car number 2 on the inside, the Justice Brothers entry, and Mike Garvey, car 23. Look at this, they're almost going to go 3 wide as Garvey tries to get inside. And here comes Holzhausen and Loney. What a fight we have going on here, Dave Burns.
J.D. Summers is right in the thick of that. This is Dale Francis, his crew chief. And you mentioned that Junior Hanley won here before. Well, they've got a Hanley chassis on that car. Dale, who were you talking to on the cellular phone there a few minutes ago?
I called Junior to ask him a question. So,
what did you ask him?
How far we could go on fuel here to the Ford.
Okay, what a guy to have in the bullpen, so to speak, ready to serve you by phone. Junior Hanley is in contact with his team for J.D. Summers here today.
Hi, Junior. Hope you're enjoying the race today on TNN.
Yeah, I hope he's watching. We could use a ratings point, Junior. Thanks for tuning in. Bob Seneker to the inside of Sawinski. Why, I told you, keep an eye on that 84. That'll put him up into 3rd. I really think, Jim, that Bob Seneker is really going to make a charge for this championship here before the year is out. started off deep inside the top 10 in points going into this 8-race stretch. And he has fought his way up into 3rd in points, and I don't think he's done there. I think Seneker is going to challenge for the title here before this season is wrapped up.
He has garnered the most points in the last 5 events than any other driver in the ASA AC-Delco Challenge Series circuit. Again, climbing into 3rd in points, but outpointing these drivers, it's got to be a concern for the likes of Gary St. Amant, the point leader, and Scott Hansen. Joe Knott also in the thick of things, running in the top 5 in points. Tony Raines maintaining his top point position, and Sawinski, don't count him out of a top 5 run to the end of the year.
The Lefebvre Racing #1, soon to be, I think, one of the more consistently competitive teams on the tour on a week in and week out basis. I think a lot of people a little surprised to see them doing so well here this year. As you take a look at the battle for 8th, Carlson struggling for control of the 2. Loney too far on the outside to do anything, and here comes Holzhausen. And look at Summers. They're going to try for 3 wide.
Drafting down the back straightaway here at the Milwaukee Mile. A perfect 1-mile oval, and Holzhausen perfectly passing on the bottom, able to keep the left side of those left side tires down on the white line. Now drifting out. As we mentioned, it's only 9 degrees banking. Very flat racetrack. A lot of speed carried off the corners, and Holzhausen, we know, is very good at getting speed out of that race car, exiting the turns.
Kenny Irwin right there in the 14, just in front of Brett Bell. That's a big pack of cars, battling just inside the top 15. There's Mike Garvey going for 6th inside of Tim Sauter in the 55.
Garvey said he likes this racetrack. He likes the bigger circuits. He's from Michigan, ran down south. He ran here in a Busch car, ran here in an all-pro race, but he said, I like this racetrack, this size of track, and I like these ASA cars, and especially get me out on a mile racetrack, and I really enjoy myself. The St. Louis Gear Chevrolet certainly proving that Mike Garvey is worthy of running here week in and week out as he shares the chores this year, Ralph, as we talked about this season, sharing the driving duties with Rick Beebe, but both those guys really deserve a full season shot.
Little damage to the nose on the 23. Right on the hood. Looks like he got into the back of somebody.
Just passing Tim Sauter, the winner of the All-Pro 100 here 2 years ago. Sauter looks to run for the Rookie of the Year next year. Ed Ohilski, the car owner, the Iowa Packing Company number 55. High hopes as their team now based out of Milwaukee, making a limited run this year and run for the Rookie in '97.
Dave Sensiba with 1 top 5 so far this year. Coming early on in the year in Columbus, Ohio, picking up a 4th, a very flat track there. And Sensiba had possibly a shot at getting his best win, or his best shot at a win, coming in Berlin a few weeks ago, maybe picking it up here today. Tony Raines puts Randy Ruhlman down a lap. The field funnels past our speed shot on the inside of turn 1. The crowd enjoying the Badgerland 150. Stay with us. We're back to the Badgerland 150 live on TNN Motorsports. Tony Raines continues to lead. There's that hot battle for 2nd. Right behind him, Dave Sensiba in front of Kevin Sawinski and Bob Seneker.
Sensiba has 6 top 5 finishes this year. A very impressive run as he now sits 6th in the points, and he's looking for another top 5 run, a podium finish. And really, we talked about how many guys really need a win. Dave Sensiba's team needs a win. Brad Loney's team needs a win. They've been there all season long. Tony Raines just knocking on the door for a victory this season, looking very strong here in Milwaukee. These drivers yet to win this season. Sensiba winless in his ASA career after winning the Rookie of the Year championship in 1994.
This Lefebvre Racing #1, this team has really built up some strong feelings of confidence over the last few weeks, picking up a win or a pole, I should say, their first pole across, gave them the feeling that they could run with everybody up front. Then they get the win at Anderson. Now they know they can run up front, and I think you're seeing the fruits of that here again today as they set a track record in qualifying, put the car up front. They come walking in here today with a lot of confidence in this team. I think next year you're really going to see them make a challenge for the championship.
They may even expand their operation in 1997. We'll keep an eye on it for you.
A lot of rumors about that.
Sensiba and Sawinski now making the fans take a closer look down the front stretch here at Milwaukee.
The car that Sawinski is driving here this weekend, nicknamed Cammy, it is also the pole-winning car from La Crosse. This is not the car that won at Anderson. Oh, and we got one in the wall, and it's Scott Hansen. Up in that list of, you can see how tough it is to bring the car back under control. And
no caution. No caution.
Gathered it back up, and look at the damage to Holzhausen's car. Did you see that? The whole Holzhausen's car is torn apart as he went by. I don't know if that was involved in the same thing or not. And now Dennis Berry is into the wall. That will bring out a yellow. Roger Slack waving the yellow flag. So we're going to see some people scrambling here, I think, Jim, with 110 laps completed of the scheduled 150. Dennis Berry sits up along the wall, and Dave Anspaugh, Sturgis Middle School back number 37, as the 6th caution flag of the day waves here in Milwaukee. We are under the 6th caution flag of the day. As you see, the damage to Steve Holzhausen's car, it is really excessive on the right side, the right front corner of the car, really torn up. It's a good look at it as it comes your way. Let's check in with Dave Burns.
Well, we believe that Steve Holzhausen hit Steve Carlson's car, the number 2 car. So take a look at that next time we get a chance. Interestingly, if you come down to Holzhausen's pit, you will not find his crew chief, Toby Noodleman, in his pit. He has been down in turn number 1, trying to guide Steve through all of the junk that is being torn up from that patch as they go through turns 1 and 2. So Toby Noodleman has been camping out down there. Unfortunately, Steve's altercation apparently happened down on the other end of the track.
No real damage there to the Trop Arctic number 2 of Steve Carlson.
Is there, what's that hanging down on the bottom?
That looks like the jack post. The jack post for jacking up the rear end. They do weld one on the hoop where the fuel cell sits, so it looks like maybe that could be part of Holzhausen's car.
Never seen one that far down, though.
If Steve got under him that far, he might have peeled off some fiberglass on the way back down.
I can tell you this much: if he did hit Carlson, there's one strong bumper on that number 2, because there's not a lot of damage to it, is there? This is the 6th caution flag of the day. The record, by the way, that is not a jack post, I don't think. That white is not a jack post.
Good shot at the mystery debris hanging off the underside and staying underneath Jim Daly's car, driven today by Steve Carlson.
The record, by the way, for caution flags here is 16, set in 1984 in July. I don't think we're going to have much of a problem with that. Dennis Berry's car is still up along the wall as the crew here in the Milwaukee Mile continues to clean up the outside of the racetrack. We'll be back to Milwaukee right after this. We're back to the Milwaukee Mile, where Tony Raines continues to lead with 114 laps in the books. And there have been problems for Steve Carlson's number 2, trying to figure out what this is hanging off the rear end of the car under the bottom, under the T-Czar sticker. Let's see if Dave Burns can find out from Jim Daly, his crew chief.
Yeah, we're going to go right to the source. And Jim, obviously you've been in contact with Steve in the car. What did get damaged when you were hit from the rear by Steve Holzhausen?
Well, the fuel vent that we stick the little can up to catch the overflow of the gas got knocked out of there. And we think we got enough gas to go to the end, but it's going to be close. We got about 6 gallons in it after 51 laps there. We put right sides on it. Then we had a bleeder come loose, brake bleeder, so we had no front brakes. Had to come back in again and fix that. But the Gillen Enterprises Trop Arctic Pontiac is running good for what track conditions we got to work with here today in the tires.
And Jim, I understand it wasn't just a light tap either from Steve from behind. He got hit pretty hard.
Yeah, he said it knocked the helmet clean over his eyes. So he'll be all right, though. I think we'll be all right.
That's a lot of force to knock your helmet right over your eyes.
Steve Carlson wears glasses, so we'll have to hopefully they didn't pop out somewhere in the cockpit somewhere. But the worst of it appears to be for Holzhausen. If there's enough gasoline for Carlson to go, which with only 6 gallons, Ralph, doesn't sound like that equates with this many laps remaining.
No, we're working lap 116 of a scheduled 150. Poor Jim Daly's been taking a lot of abuse down in the pits lately. If you were with us earlier this year at Lancaster, Buffalo, we had Jim, who was helping out Mike Miller, right there on camera. They were trying to get the lug nuts on, and everybody's been picking on old Jim about that, and he's been walking around pit lane kind of frustrated, I think, with us for catching it on TV.
Well, Steve Carlson's a great driver. He's had many laps here. Good choice to put in the car here in Milwaukee. 1 year ago at Minnesota State Fair. Next week is the 1-year anniversary of Jim Daly's win with Bobby Gill behind the wheel at the fairgrounds. So they have had some good runs. Maybe Jim shouldn't be changing tires, though.
Jim Daly's been working on the ASA Tour for a lot of years. We do want to send well wishes to Doug Parrish, who is the father of Jan Baird, father-in-law to Bill Baird. He underwent quadruple bypass surgery this week. Wish him well. Green flag is back out on lap 118.
If you're just joining us, Mike Eddy is a non-factory, lost 29 laps while the crew fixed a distributor on the green flag initial start. His car did not come up to speed.
Listed in 30th at this point. Race Dave Sensiba sitting in third. Trying to make some noise here today. Sawinski in second and Tony Raines continuing to lead in white number 87.
Raines has led the last 26 laps and has not been threatened by Sawinski. Sawinski gets in the corner better, but the Bicker Enterprises powered by Wagner Automotive able to turn off a turns 2 and 4 a little bit quicker. Get that horsepower down to the racetrack. And these new Goodyear Eagles, again, brand new right side tire compound. Twos on the left in the tire compound war of 1, 2, or 3 that they decide between Goodyear and ASA to run at each venue.
There's Brad Loney getting right up on the backside of Mike Garvey. Seneker just in front of them is a Chase Sensiba and Sawinski. This new Goodyear Eagle is a variation of the number 3 compound. Well, you see Seneker real loose coming off of 2. But it is not the usual number 3. It's a tire that, what the Goodyear engineers are saying, resembles more of the tire that we ran in Michigan back in 1994. Much harder compound tire.
Seneker's in 4th. Mike Garvey is in 5th. Brad Loney runs 6th in the Flex Steel Pontiac. Garvey looking awfully stout there as the yellow 23 of Garvey goes inside again of Seneker. Let's see if he gets a low line run off of Seneker this time on turn 2. Not going to happen.
That is the top 6 cars right in a row as we make our way down to turn number 3. Seneker has spent most of the time in practice running 2 tires in the patch and 2 tires on the older new surface. Seems to have changed his line a little bit now as the race has progressed.
Mike Garvey coming up from 23rd starting position, now losing ground to Brad Loney. Loney making the pass, and Garvey trying to gather it back in turn 1.
Raines, Sawinski, Sensiba, Seneker, Loney. Then Garvey, Carlson, Kenny Irwin Jr. inside the top 10. Hansen and Smokestad.
Kenny Irwin in the wins 14 there coming out for turn 4 in that Pontiac. Well, running a limited schedule this year for car owner Bud Gavin, but a very impressive pit stop early on kept him up, gained positions in the pits on a 4-tire change, and he's been in the top 10 all afternoon.
Whoa, look at Garvey. Look at Garvey dirt tracking through there.
He saved it this time. We'll see if the pressure put on by Steve Carlson, that yellow and red number 2, will culminate here going into turn number 3.
Well, now some of these drivers have been on these tires for quite a few laps, and we might see some of them using up those tires. It's a harder compound tire, but if the track is slicking up and they're getting garbage on those tires, maybe, you know, the handling of some of those tires is going to start to go away. Garvey again slipping a little bit as he goes through 1 and 2. You see his car drifting up higher than the line that Carlson and Irwin running, and here comes Scott Hansen. Look at this T-Zar motor. The horsepower down the straightaways is unbelievable.
He certainly gets in the corner in a hurry, and he has to wall it down going through, and Irwin a smoother turn there. Turn speed was more consistent for Irwin this time, but Hansen again will reel him back in down this long quarter-mile straightaway.
As far as setting up the handling of these cars here this weekend, a lot of the drivers playing with brake bias on the race cars. Hansen had a lot of rear brake, wanted more on the front, so they couldn't dial any more front brake into the car. So what they did is just took more brake out of the rear, now balanced the car up for him. Gary St. Amant playing with that all weekend. We're seeing brake temperatures over 1,100 degrees in this big 1 mile oval, which I found kind of surprising. You wouldn't be surprised to see high temperatures like that on a short track like Anderson, but the big mile like this, they do so much trail braking through these turns that they really are utilizing the brakes a lot. As we go back to the front and look at how Sawinski now has caught up to Tony Raines.
Into the turn, Sawinski gobbles him up. Now Sawinski very low in the turn there. It's about almost a double apex with the wide quarter-mile turn. Raines again on the exit, able to hold him off in the clean burn Pontiac.
Pontiac, Chevy, battling 1 and 2. Chevy running in third, the Ford in fourth, another Chevy in fifth. So that manufacturer's battle going to be a good one again here today. And here comes Sensiba. Dave taking a look to the inside of Sawinski, and the Bluebird hanging right there with him.
Bluebird in that Lane Automotive Ford has run the top 5 for the majority of this event. 5 victories to his credit. Qualified 7th yesterday afternoon here at the mile. We recognize the top 3 drivers at the finish of each ASA race. They pull up on the front stretch, and I think Seneca is a serious contender for that honor.
Sawinski got real low going through 1 and 2 as he kicked up some of the dust. We're going to step away just for a moment as the field continues to battle here in the Badgerland 150. 127 of the 150 scheduled laps completed here at Milwaukee. Tony Raines finished 3rd here last year. Right now he has slipped back to 2nd. As Kevin Sawinski has taken over the point for the 3rd time here today in that Brown and Sharp number 1. Here's how he did it.
Looks to the inside of Raines off of turn 4, gets right up on his back bumper, gives him a nudge, but look, he goes outside. And heading down the straightaway, Raines has the what you would think would be the desired line, but Sawinski just goes, I'm going for it. See you, Tony. Follow me through 1.
And we have a yellow flag in the hands of Roger Slack. We have a car on the outside of turn 2, Brett Bell.
Brett Bell looping the Wonder Bar Ford.
You know, he was running 12th.
Wow.
Quick count down the scoring monitor, which of course we can't read.
Another good run.
And you know, and I didn't want to say anything.
Yep, it was like a jinx.
Oh man.
Yeah.
If you're a regular viewer of ASA Racing here on TNN, you have unfortunately with us been able to chronicle the horrible, and I do mean horrible, luck the driver of this Wonder Bar number 56 has had in his ASA career. He comes in here loaded, ready to go. He's got a nice, sturdy, Roush-prepared motor inside that number 56, one of the more well-funded teams in the field. They come ready to go. Brett comes with tons of enthusiasm. They get themselves in good position, and something always bites him. Unlike this guy here. Kevin Sawinski comes in the same position, well-funded, well-prepared, and the moon is shining bright right now on his crew.
There's Tracy. She's maybe praying for 2 in a row here for Sawinski. Winner last week at Anderson.
Hang in there, Tracy. We'll find out shortly. 133 of 150 laps scheduled completed. Now, I don't know a whole lot about cleaning off a racetrack, but if we know the outside groove is the slipperiest part of the racetrack, why would you blow everything down into the groove where we are racing?
I believe the efforts here of the Milwaukee Mile safety crew is to get the surface cleaned off from top to bottom. They're blowing it back into the infield. However, the race here run over the 4th of July weekend with the Busch cars. The track went away and continued to deteriorate, and they kept blowing it back to the inside after each and every caution. They're doing that same motivating factor here today and trying to get those cars through that stuff. Would create a one-groove racetrack as the blower will blow it back down to the inside. There is some debris left on the inside of the racetrack where the cars have been running, and that way they get through there a couple of times and it makes it a little loose for the first
They're pretty far up there. They're going to at least then hopefully make another lap around and get a little lower and really blow it into the inside, into the infield, and not just to the inner groove, I would think, or hope.
With the added warm-up lane here in turns 1 and 2, that will make that a very slippery situation. It's a completely flat warm-up lane to make the field blend on the backstretch after exiting the pit lane. And that may cause concern if anyone does come down pit lane with 14 circuits remaining. They would lose valuable track position, but if they had a flat tire or something, it might be tricky getting out of the pits.
Tony Raines runs in second. Howie Ledow is his crew chief, and Sandy is with him.
Well, I'll tell you what, Howie Ledow is pacing back and forth atop the Baker Motorsports transport hauler. You've got some difficulty here. It looks like Sawinski has a pretty strong motor. How are you going to get around him?
Well, I guess if Kevin's got a weak spot at all, it's usually the first 4 or 5 laps after a restart. We'll see what we can do with him early on. He's running awfully good. Our car's running good. Clean burns here today, and we picked up Jack Link sausages, meat snacks, help us out for the weekend. We appreciate that. And I don't know, Tony's just gonna see what he can do.
Okay, that's Howie Ledow, crew chief for Tony Raines.
And there is Brett Bell and his Wonder Bar number 56 making their way back to pit road. That is why we are under caution here today, 7th of the day. Well, Kevin Sawinski is leading for the 3rd time here today, and we saw him pit, well, not too long ago, around lap 53, I guess. So, Dave, is he going to have enough fuel to get all the way?
They're a little bit concerned down here, Ralph. If indeed it was right around lap 53, obviously some of these yellows are going to help, but a number of other competitors pitted at that point as well. They're a little bit concerned that Kevin can make it all the way. They think they're okay. Now, one of the drivers who also pitted around that time benefited from a spin later on, and that was Joe Knott. He came in about lap 75, so he should be good to go.
The only time this season the AC-Delco Challenge Series is allowed to change 4 tires under yellow is here at Milwaukee, with that added incentive to have the crew perform well. When that jack goes down, that's the signal for the driver to go. The question now becomes, with all the activity going around the car, not 2 tires but 4, Ralph, did they get all the fuel in the car? Pace car continues to circle the racetrack. Raines is in 2nd. Dave Sensible, a great run in 3rd.
Well, there's the jet dryer. You can see that they have moved it a little bit lower on the racetrack. So now they are trying to blow some of that debris farther down. Well, Racing Electronics provides all those headsets that you see people like Mr. Smokestad wearing. Racing Electronics is the official communications equipment supplier to the American Speed Association, and they are giving away a Uniden Bearcat scanner along with a 1-year Racers Frequency membership on each ASA telecast on TNN. To enter this drawing, send your name and address on a postcard to Racing Electronics, P.O. Box 561244, Charlotte, North Carolina 28256. Now, this week's winner is Eileen Livingstone from Bell Vernon, Pennsylvania. Congratulations, Eileen. Enjoy your scanner from Racing Electronics as you listen in to all the ASA crews and their drivers while they go racing on the American Speed Association Tour.
28 cars are still running, 23 of them on lead lap. 8 cars are behind the wall, including Bill Baird, Dennis Latman, who celebrated his 42nd birthday on Friday, Matt Kenseth, who got up into the top 10 before having some motor problems. Bob Dorswitz found the wall in turn 4. Jack Landis had an oil line problem. He's also out of the event. Dennis Berry brought out our 6th caution with an accident over in turn 1. Tony Roper developed rear end problems. He's done for the day. And our latest caution here for Brett Bell's spin in the 2nd turn.
There you see Tom Jones has got the 0 back out. He's right now listed in 31st position.
Rod Wheeler also came in for what looked like a left side tire change, and he is done for the day as well, out of Appleton, Wisconsin.
Yeah, there is the crew. Kevin Sawinski, Tracy watching, keeping her fingers crossed, anxiously awaiting the green flag, which will come back out here in just a second.
Kevin's girlfriend and you at home will have a great view of the final 10 laps here at the Milwaukee Mile.
Brad Loney to the bottom. Looked like for a second he might have missed a shift as they came up through the gearbox. Carlson and Irwin all over the backside of him. Oh, and we got Holzhausen spinning around.
Andy Bozell also involved in car number 83. He was the red car that went extremely high, and Holzhausen already had right front damage, and now he's got more problems on that Tony's Pizza Ford.
And there will not be a yellow flag. So we continue under green flag conditions. Can Raines reel in Sawinski? Is everybody got enough fuel and enough tires left? These are some of the questions we're going to try to answer here in the next 9 laps as Raines. Jack links back, clean burn number 87 all over the backside of Sawinski. Tries to plot their strategy. It looks like Raines is able to stick a little lower in through 3 and 4. That might make a difference. However, we saw Kevin get a great drive on the outside.
And keep in mind, if the fuel is a problem, Tony Raines has the advantage. He's not pushing the air through. He's actually drafting with Sawinski, able to maybe conserve a little bit of fuel if it comes down to half a gallon or a full gallon left in the tank.
Well, we saw Brad Loney struggle at the start. What was the problem, Dave?
Well, Ralph, they thought that was going to be their strong suit because the car operated well just after a yellow flag, but when he hit the gas, the carburetor went flat on him. That motor got no juice sent to it, and so Brad Loney lost a spot to Mike Garvey. He'll try to pick that up and pass a couple more cars before this thing's over.
Andy Bozell is on pit road with heavy front end damage right now as the leaders continue to to work their way around this Milwaukee Mile. You see Rain slipping a little bit. Sawinski takes a much wider line through there, and Rain's actually slipped the car a little going through 1 and 2. Chevy, Pontiac, Chevy, and Ford as you look at the top 4. And then there's Mike Garvey, Loney, Irwin, Hansen, and Joe Knott now. That is 8th position.
Joe Knott running in 9th. Ted Smokestad in 10th. Again, these guys have continued to battle. Hansen in the latter half of the top 10 since pit stops. You see the front end damage. His hood cocked up a little bit on that white Chevy.
Hansen trying to take over the points lead here today. Joe Knott trying to improve on his position, and now Smokestad takes a look to the inside in the Super America car as he slips through the turns, and Carlson right behind him.
Joe Knott now 8th, Hansen 9th, Smokestad in 10th, 11th is Steve Carlson in the 2 car.
Good fights going on all over this racetrack, inside the top 10 especially. Smokestad drifts high, and Carlson will get to the inside. There's Mike Miller, who led laps early on, running behind them. Things shifting a lot here as we work our way around with some 5 laps left to go in this one. Everybody fighting for handling, and Harold Fair right behind Mike Miller, who had a pretty good run going here today.
There's the red and white Pontiac and Miller in 12th and 13th. That's the battle with Carl Muscott to the inside now as he makes a great pass to the bottom of Fair.
Carl leading his first laps in an ASA competition earlier today. Behind them, Mike Eddy. Way back in the laps, sitting in 29th position right now, the 7-time champ, struggling here today in Milwaukee. Distributor problems early on the opening laps, causing him some headaches. Back up front, getting tight with just 4 laps to go. Kevin Sawinski and Tony Raines setting up their strategies, and we've got a slower car at the exit of turn 4.
Aaron Huff might have made it an awesome problem for those leaders, but they were able to get by. Good job of the spotters of getting those guys safely through there as Aaron's almost stopped on the apron at 4.
Leaders going through 1 and 2. Seneca now sits into 3rd as he slips past David Sensiba. Garvey in 5th. There you see the gap back to Seneca, the Ford. Everybody expected the Fords to be so strong here today because they get the little bit bigger carburetor on that Ford V6 when they come to the big track like here at Milwaukee. But it has not really been the story.
2 circuits remain. Seneca running 3rd, trying to hold Sensiba off the podium finish in 4th.
Am I seeing little puffs of smoke out of Seneca? You bet we are. Seneca's puffing the number 84. Has he got a problem? He doesn't get through 1 and 2 very well. Pulls to the bottom, and Sensiba drags him down the back straightaway. He'll take over 3rd. Maybe the Bluebird about to blow up a motor here. Seneca trying to nurse the car around with 1 to go as Mike Garvey now comes up to challenge. Maybe he can take over. He'll get another spot. So Seneca's going to have to nurse it home and try to salvage as many positions and points as he can. The championship chase struggling for Bob Seneca. Oh, and we've got a big problem in turn 1. Mike Miller and Ted Smokestad getting together as we race to the checkered flag. Up the front straightaway. Here comes Kevin Sawinski and Tony Raines. Sawinski will make it 2 in a row as he picks up his 2nd career AC-Delco Challenge Series victory here at the Milwaukee Mile. As the rest of the field comes across the line, Tony Raines pulls up alongside of the brown and sharp Chevy of Kevin Sawinski and gives him a thumbs up after a great race. Kevin Sawinski is the winner of the Badgerland 150. Mike Jaffe and crew celebrating. Stay with us.
Nice job.
Kevin Sawinski doing a partial Alan Kwiecki Polish victory lap as he got to the halfway point of the backstretch, turned it around, waited for everybody to go by. There's Scott Lefevre celebrating with Mike Jaffe. Alan, of course, winning an ASA race here in the Milwaukee Mile back in 1983.
Yeah, it was great. Alan always did well here at the Milwaukee Mile. He was either feast or famine for Alan, but really the fans here like to see this kind of thing here at Milwaukee, and it's very fitting that Kevin from Mosinee, Wisconsin, winning his first race in ASA at the Milwaukee Mile, becoming the first rookie to win back-to-back in ASA, giving a tribute to Alan and the fans here at Milwaukee.
Kevin is definitely going to be adding to his fan base the way he's been running here on the ASA Tour lately. Stay with us. We'll talk to our winner right after this. 2 poles and now 2 wins for Kevin Swinski, who's in victory lane, a place he's calling home a lot these days, Dave.
Well, it's not, and this is the first time, obviously, at Milwaukee. He's had a 15th and 11th place here before, but obviously victory much sweeter here at Milwaukee, Kevin.
Yeah, definitely. You know, this is about 2 hours south of my hometown, Mosinee, Wisconsin. It's great to be back home. I can't thank the crew. They gave me a super car. They can't thank them enough. Of course, sponsors, Brown & Sharp, Coleman Racing Products. They backed this team with 100% when they decided to go with a rookie driver. And I'll tell you, I'm having a ball. Glad for their decision. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, kind of fun winning 2 in a row, isn't it?
Yeah, you know, definitely. This is a real tough series, and our car was really good once we could go green flag racing, but I was kind of worried on that last restart with 10 to go. I know Tony was really awesome on the starts, and I'm like, man, if we can hold on, this is going to be a sweet victory.
Now, Kevin, do you remember the last lead change? Obviously, you were dicing back and forth, and you had a chance to take it over one last time. You just went for it on the outside, I think.
Yeah, you know, Tony gave me a little bit on the outside, and I went up there, and he started to move back over towards me, and he must have seen I had a fender up on him, and he wisely moved over, and I drag raced him down into 1, and we definitely need to be on the inside groove going into 1 with the track coming apart a little bit, but the Goodyear tires held for us. Our motor builder T-Zars gave us super power down the straightaways when we needed to. I just can't thank everybody enough. This is one sweet victory.
Well, Kevin, we documented a little bit the reverse lap you took here. Did you guys plan that ahead of time, or did that come afterwards?
No, that's the crew was screaming in my ears, you know, we need a Polish victory lap. You know where you are. Don't let us down. So we gave it for him.
So was this a Sawinski Polish victory lap, or was this a Kowicki commemorative here?
Well, definitely an Alan Quickie commemorative. You know, he's a super race car driver, and everybody misses him.
All right, well, Kevin Sawinski is going to try to do this again next week. We think we might see him up near the front again, guys.
I wouldn't be surprised at all, Dave. Of course, the next race, a non-televised race at the Minnesota State Fairgrounds, the only race they hold there a year. It's a once-a-year deal during the middle of their fair, and that will be the hometown for car owner Scott LeFevre. So that will be a big one for him up there. That'd be great if they go 3 in a row. Tony Raines had a pretty good run today. Sandy Hang is with him.
Well, I tell you what, Tony, you gave him one heck of a fight there at the end.
Well, I tell you, I guess second's, you know, best we can do this year. We had a really good car, and Kevin had, you know, a really good car and a good motor, and he's a good driver. And you know, my clean burn sponsors, we had jack links on the quarter panel for a little help today. My crew got me out first again out of the pits like they do every time, and we just come up a little bit short. But it was a good race, hometown for us, and hopefully we'll get him next year.
At one point, it looked like you might be able to muscle your way around him, and then he was just so strong on the straightaways. What were you thinking? Where could you go from there?
Well, our car was really, really good on long greens, and I knew them yellows were going to hurt us, and that last yellow, the right sides just seemed to get hard, you know. Goodyear came here with a great tire for us at this track. You know, they've had some problems here earlier this summer, but track came up a little bit, but not real bad. This car just got a little skittish after that last yellow, and just tightened me up enough. Kevin got by me, and we ended up second.
Okay, that's Tony Raines with the second place after a third last year. He did better himself by 1 position.
Thank you, Sandy. Tony Raines and Howie Leddow still trying to find their way to victory lane together here at the Milwaukee Mile. Well, we've got plenty more for you from the Badgerland 150. We're going to talk to Sensible Garvey and our new points leader when we come back. There's a look at the top 10. Steve Carlson, the ARCO points leader, comes home in 10th in an ASA appearance. Dave Sensible gets a top 3 finish here. Let's check in with Dave Burns, who is standing by with the West Michigan Chevy Dealers number 4 driver.
Well, another top 3 for Dave. He's been high in the hunt in the points all day long. Pretty good run for you.
Yeah, the West Michigan Chevy Dealers Lane Automotive car. Run good all day. We started back 22nd. We knew we had a better car than that. Tony and Kevin, they were tough. We had one spot we couldn't get off turn 2 there, but the rest of the track, we catch them, we lose them in 2. So we'll take a third.
Now, Dave, you told me your horsepower is pretty good. We've been talking about the T-Zar motors all day. You want to give your motor builder a plug?
Oh, K-Tech run good all day. And, you know, we had motor for them. We just couldn't get off 2, and that really hurt us because everything we lose on the backstretch, we'd have to gain in 3 and 4 and down the front chute. So, you know, hats off to K-Tech.
By the end of the day, were you pretty worried about staying only in the low groove, or could you find something a groove and a half or 2 grooves up?
Well, I was trying to stay in a low groove, you know, in 1 and 2 because it was coming apart mainly in the center of the track, and it pitched the car a little bit, but going in, every place else the track was really good.
Looking forward to going to Minnesota next week?
Yeah, we are. We run good there, and you know, we need a win. We need to improve on this third. We keep getting all these thirds, but these guys are tough.
Okay, Dave's been on the podium a lot. He's hoping to move up a couple of slots next week.
7th top 5 for Dave Sensiba.
Great run for Dave as he continues to improve. He didn't want to lead some laps last week, and it cost him. He didn't lead a lap, so the points thing coming down to the end here, and as it shapes up for the rest of the year, it's very important to gain points, lead a lap, do that kind of thing.
Each week we give out our wins winning move to the driver who Wheatfield pulls off the best move of the race. For Scott Hansen, it was a long day and a fight through things like this. Surviving a spin after starting on the pole, leading early on. Hansen had problems. Good pit crew work, good strategy in the pits. They fought their way back for a strong finish here today. And most importantly, not only does Scott win the wins winning move, but he now takes over the points lead, Sandy.
I'll tell you what, Scott, there was a lot of talk early setting up the car. You were tweaking the brakes, worried about tires. What did it all come down to today for you?
Absolutely nothing mattered because the Busch guys said enough bad things about the place. I guess we don't have to. Just the race, that track position meant everything. Car handling, tires, brakes meant nothing. Not much to say.
That's, he says, enough said right there.
Well, I think it's the most frustrated guy I've ever seen taking over a points lead. Scott Hansen and the All-Star Racing team. Frustrated, I think, that they didn't get a win here at their home track, but once things settle down and they get back home and think about it a little bit, the fact that Scott is in the new points leader on the AC-Delco Challenge Series and probably the best position he's ever been in to win an ASA championship at this point in the season might make him feel a little bit better. So they're going to load up the 53 into the trailer, and Scott's going to go home. The points leader after the Badgerland 150. We got more for you after this. The AC-Delco Challenge Series on TNN is brought to you in part by your GM Goodwrench service dealer. We want your business. By Win Oil Company, makers of quality automotive car care products. Remember, when it's wins, it works. By Pep Boys, 26,000 items at the guaranteed low price. Tires and service too, everything but gas. And by Heinz 57 steak sauce. Let's eat. And we're back to the Badgerland 150, which has just been completed here at the Milwaukee Mile. And not too many people leaving the grandstands yet, because as soon as they wrap up all the Victory Circle stuff here on the front straightaway, they'll open up the gates and let the fans go back into the infield to get some autographs from the different drivers. And you can be sure Kevin Sawinski is going to be working his way through a whole box full of Sharpies today, because there's a lot of people here waiting to get to the winner of the Badgerland 150 as he continues to march his way up through this field in the point standings. Unbelievable. This guy's supposed to be a rookie, but he is really challenging for the win. And Mike Garvey is a guy we'd like to see here on a regular basis, wouldn't we, Dave?
Well, we may ask him that, although his sponsor is St. Louis Gear and Mike is from Atlanta, but a lot of his homecoming seems to be from this area, from Michigan. You had a lot of people in the stands today to see you do pretty well.
Yeah, we sure did, Dave. I grew up in Michigan, which is just across Lake Michigan, and my family, my sisters, my niece, everybody was here, so we had a good, strong run. We were real good in the middle of the race, and the stagger closed up on us at the end, but until then, the Hodges Motorsports, St. Louis Gear, Coors Light Monte Carlo was really running good and really made up for a bad qualifying run.
Now, your good buddy, Buckshot Jones, won a real weird race here earlier this year in his Busch car. How was the track compared to that? Not quite as bad today, although it was coming up a bit, right?
Yeah, I didn't get to talk to Buckshot after the race. I watched it on TV. It wasn't that bad. It came apart pretty bad. We still had a bottom groove, but you really had to be careful down there. But it wasn't that bad. We got to race through it, and in fact, it made it easy to pass a few guys. If you got up a little bit, you got a little loose, you could get underneath them. So it was very raceable. It came apart a little bit, but it was very raceable.
Now, starting back in 23rd, you told me you really didn't chase the car today. So what changes did you make from qualifying yesterday?
We really didn't make any changes. We were real fast in practice. The biggest problem we had is we drew a 1. And the other classic car, the Mid-American cars, went out before we did. In fact, we made a qualifying run right as practice ended and ran faster than what the pole was. So we knew we were in good shape, but it wasn't good to draw 1.
Well, yeah, I mean, first in some things is great, guys, but when you're going out to qualify, obviously Mike didn't want to be the first one to start that off yesterday. He turns it around. He comes home 4th here at the Badgerland 150.
That was his career best finish. Mike, as you take a look at the full field rundown, making note of the Mid-America stock cars, which were a part of the weekend's activities here in the Milwaukee Mile. They ran yesterday.
We'll see them back at the Tournament of Speed weekend, 3 days at Kaukauna in 2 weeks, September 8th, 6th, 7th, and 8th, up there just 2 hours north of here near Green Bay.
One of the best views of the racetrack on the backside from atop that.
Great run for Tim Sauter, 13th. Steve Holtzhausen credited with 21st after those 2 race incidents. Tony Roper well back in 26th.
Brett Bell frustrated after a solid run early on. He finishes 27th. And Mike Eddy fights his way back into 29th. Dennis Berry filling in for Dave Anspaugh comes home behind that.
Tom Jones and Dennis Latman both expecting good runs here today. Not such a good finish, though. 31st and 33rd in the afternoon.
Bill Baird whacked the wall. Tracy's got the trophy.
I don't know if she's crying today. She cried last week in Anderson at a cry of victory, and I think she's she knows she's with a good team here, and she and Kevin very excited to work this season together, running for Rookie of the Year.
Let's check in with Sandy Hay.
Well, we tracked down the story on the Bluebird, Bob Seneker, what happened the last couple laps. Look at this. Look at the right back tire. The lug nuts are tight. Bad bearing. Bearing went down on him, so that's why Seneker had problems the last couple laps there of the race.
Well, that really cost him, too, because he was in the thick of chance at picking up a solid finish inside the top 5 that would have allowed him to solidify his position in that chase for the championship. It'll be interesting to see how the points shake out. As you look at the race summary here, 6 different leaders, but 9 different lead changes.
Yeah, Tony Raines led the race. Kevin Swinski led the race 3 different times. Mike Miller took a turn at the point, and it looked like a pretty exciting run, and it was a great race this afternoon. A limited number of cautions, only 7 on the afternoon. A couple of were for debris. A couple of drivers getting out of shape, but a very safe afternoon here for the American Speed Association. We mentioned that strong stretch run. Not a lot of torn-up cars with the exception of Bob Dorstwitz this afternoon.
Brad Loney is going to be a big part of one of our next telecasts as we go back to Cedar Rapids, his hometown, but he had a pretty good run here as well today, Dave.
Yeah, I think he did. He had some pretty tough competition there at the end, and we thought maybe you were going to go buy a couple cars there at the end, but I understand he had a carburetor problem that really flattened things out for you there at the finish.
Yeah, this Bunsaver Flex Steel Furniture H&M Motor Express team, again, did a fantastic job giving me a great car, and unfortunately, it wasn't a carburetor problem. It was a fitting on the fuel pump that cracked, and we fought that pretty much all day long, so we were very fortunate not to have another fire this week and have a finish and a car at the end.
So actually, I thought that you were going to have a better restart and then maybe fall away. So what happened at the restart?
I was hoping for that. I think that the vibration that the car endured throughout the event caused the crack to get a little bit worse, and consequently we lost more fuel pressure, and we're just happy to be here at all in one piece.
Well, Milwaukee's always been kind of it's not been too bad to us. It's not been too great to us. I guess we're still there, aren't we?
Yeah, we're still just there.
Okay, well, Brad's going to try to work that out next year when we return to Milwaukee.
That crew says to stay tuned. They hope to maybe have some big announcements to be made concerning their efforts in 1997 here shortly. But we're not done yet for the Milwaukee Mile. Stay with us, folks. We'll open the gates in just a second. Welcome back to Milwaukee, Wisconsin in the Badgerland 150. We have opened up the gates down on the racetrack and allowed the crowd to go across into the infield, and they're going to enjoy themselves down there. Some of the folks still picnicking in the infield. Well, the points is what everybody is going to be talking about after this one. And here's a look at it. Scott Hansen now takes over the point lead from Gary St. Amant, who, remember, going into this race, there was only 1 point separating them. Now there's 29 points separating them, and they have flip-flop positions. Bob Seneker stays in 3rd position. He is now 51 points out of 1st. Tony Raines is 84 points out, and Dave Sensiba is 105 points out of 1st place. As you take a look at the back half of the top 10, some things moving around in there. Sawinski continues. He was sitting up in there in the 7th position, but he's making up some ground, and Mike Eddy had moved up to 9th. He slips right back into 10th. Well, Ted Smokestad had a great run in that Super America car. Let's check in and see how things went for Ted today.
Well, Ted, you got a taste, I think, of what victory's going to be like later. You got out front there. How'd it feel?
We were real excited about how the Super America Pontiac was running today. From the get-go, the car was real stable, and the T-Zar motors gave us great power down the straightaway. Unfortunately, we didn't finish up as high as we'd like, but every time we've been here, you know, 3 times now, we've made remarkable improvement every time. So we're excited as a whole with how the team is going and how the car is running. Unfortunately, we didn't end up as far up as we'd like, but we're making headways, and we're excited to bring the Super America Pontiac to the State Fair next week.
Yep, guys, he's going home next Monday.
That's right. Next Monday, the Minnesota State Fair is the next race actually on the ASA schedule. It is not a televised race, but there's a lot more coming up for you today here on TNN. Buckmasters, followed by Outdoor Magazine, is what will follow us here after the Badgerland 150 telecast is wrapped up. Don't forget, we'll be back with more ASA Racing live on TNN from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, on the 21st of September. Make sure you tune in for that. You scoring at home? Ford leads the manufacturers' points by 6 over Pontiac and Chevy, who are now tied for second. Thanks to Racing Electronics for providing us all of our radios here today, as the gang, Tony Raines, had to find themselves finishing in second. Once again, behind Kevin Sawinski, and now a 2-time winner on the ASA Tour. For Dave Burns and Sandy Hang, who did such a great job down on pit road today, thank you very much. For all the guys who run the cameras and work in the booth, thank you. Great job as always. Tredo, enjoyed having you with us. I'm Ralph Sheen. See ya from Cedar Rapids in a couple of weeks.